Look, Targar friends, hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it's time for a shoulder and posterior chain day. I'm wanting to continue to do conventional deadlifts. Obviously, I'm always going to do my big three. Again, a lot of what I'm doing here is definitely inspired a bit, but with a bit more volumes to some of the Menzer and Dorian Yates type training. But I'm also paying attention these days to what guys like Mike O'Hearn do, because again, it appeals to me with the powerlifting background while I'm focusing on bodybuilding. And so I'm always going to keep my big three in, but in this case, I chose to do a really deep deficit deadlift, which it's going to take about almost 100 pounds off what I can do. And I've noticed that, like, I think my max when I tested it one time was like 70 or 80 pounds less once with that 2.5 inch deficit. So I'm doing those, I'm doing my 2 sets, and we were taking those to pretty well limit sets. Without taking a rest pause, 5 is about all I could handle there. That was grindy. And then I am supersetting it with upright rows. And that's one reason I'm also picking the split I'm doing. I want these workouts to be short. I want them to be fast. I want them to be intense. Right? I want them to be that way. And if I pick exercises or body parts that I can superset, it lets me cut my workout time down. Okay, this second set I did rest pause. Right, I did my 5 reps again. And again, I'm fully aware people have watched me do, I think not that long ago, I pulled like 7 reps with 500. So again, getting these reps with this, it shows how much that 2.5 inch deficit takes off. So I did a rest pause here, right? I did 5, rested a few seconds, and then pulled 1 more rep, because I know that if I had gone straight into it, I probably would have missed it. Same thing here, the second set of upright rows, because I took the first set right there to the limit. And then this one, I rest paused it, did the same number of reps because it felt hard. I felt like I didn't have another rep. Did a rest pause, did 1 rep afterwards. So I did 7, then 1 more. Then I tried to get another rep and it missed. So we hit absolute failure here, because I did a rest pause and then still hit failure trying to attempt another rep. So again, what we need to remember here, this is all about the lengthened position on this. I don't try to go super high on these. There's no need, because again, once we start getting real high on any of this stuff, the front delt takes over on a lot of these shoulder movements. And I think people forget that. I have a ton of interior delt work, and all these delt exercises still hit the front delts. So just keep that in context. I already flat bench, incline bench, and do flies on my chest day the day before. All right, so really we end up with a lot of volume still for my front delts. They're still getting more volume than just about anything else I do. They're up there. My delts and triceps, I think at this point, probably get the most volume. Glutes might be up there also, but it's just because of the overlap, right? The direct sets, it's still only, 6 sets. But there's overlap in a lot of these because my delt exercises stuff. It's the same thing with the delts, because I do close grip bench on my arm day. All right, so what I did next, we did weighted glute ham raises, and I did a superset with laterals. And I bumped the weight a little bit, trying to stay really strict. And yeah, I hit failure at just around the 10 to 11 rep mark with this. So I picked the weight just right. On the glute ham raises, I pretty much... I hit failure in the middle of the 10th rep there. So I did 9 and I tried to go over 10 and I missed it. So the next set I tried to rest pause that to see if I could get, because I started getting really grindy at 7. So I did a little bit of a pause and went for another rep and still missed it. So both of these were sets to failure. All right. So again, the hamstring work is good here. Here's the thing I'm noticing. As long as I'm limiting the volume, I'm not getting the hamstring cramps also later in the day, because that's a problem I've had. But a lot of that's when I'm doing way too much volume. And I'm noticing that's my issue in general. Working hard doesn't cause me the same problems that doing too much volume does. It's a big deal. I've noticed in certain muscles I get cramps that can be nearly debilitating. And I think it's just a case of I'm just doing too much, instead of focusing on really high quality sets. And this is a thing I've noticed historically. I'm not having that problem from these workouts. So that is a good thing. And again, this speaks volumes to me about this. But here's the thing that we're going to do. Since I'm doing these really moderated volumes on a body part split, I'm going to probably work everything. So you guys are going to see here, yes, on the last part, I actually work, like, let's do an actual rear delt exercise. Now, keep in mind, there's no way to isolate the rear delt really. So rear delt exercises hit the side delts really, really hard in all the research. They also hit the upper traps and stuff really hard. So that's kind of the one thing I may not bother to isolate is going to be upper traps. I feel like my traps have been growing pretty well. I feel like all the rowing, the deadlifting, and then all the delt work, I feel like my traps get so much overlap, I may not need to. So I'm not particularly worried about that. But I'm doing neck extensions here, which also, if you go look at the data, neck extensions work the upper traps, actually. So at the end of the day, my traps don't need it. But I am doing, finishing off with my reverse hypers. Then I'm doing these, and yes, this is really my range of motion, but I'm hoping all this shoulder work, all these different angles I'm working and moderating volume will help. Because one of the things that I noticed, my shoulder problems originally started from overuse. It's when I originally got that impingement that I rehabbed, was just flat overuse. And that's the thing that I have to admit as I get older as a lifter. I don't handle the really high volumes well. Lifting heavy, going hard doesn't seem to bother me. When I do the endless sets, it does. Like, this is really problematic. So I'm hoping that as I moderate the volumes a little bit and just work all the angles and try to take things through the longest ranges of motion my joints will go through, I think that's going to help with more of that over time. And the main thing is muscle balance also, working everything. Literally saying, yes, I'm going to work my neck. Yes, I'm going to make sure I do a little isolation for the rear delts. I'm probably going to do some forearms tomorrow on my arm day. Like, these little smaller areas, they don't get as much, but it's like, let's come in and make sure that we work everything. And I think that's going to be important to this. I mean, if I'm at a point where I'm doing calves, forearms, and my neck, but it's not hard to do, here's the thing, because the rest of the workouts, they're intense, they're hard. Yes, they're hard, but they're not grueling. Because I'm not here, trying to do 25 sets in a workout, right? All these workouts are somewhere between 12 to 16 sets. It's only going to be 16 like tomorrow because I'm going to add the forearm work, okay? My chest and back day was just 12 sets, 6 sets each in a superset. All hard sets, some rest pause, some failures, all that stuff, all right? But it's really easy to come in and do a couple sets for every little head. It's for me to actually say, well, let's work the side delts with an isolation, not just the upright. Let's do an isolation. Let's do an isolation movement for the posterior delt. Let's do an isolation for the neck. Okay? Let's do one for the forearm extensors. It's really easy to work everything. And this is often probably a point I've missed. One reason that I don't always have the proportions, because I don't think people, they're like, oh, you don't have that big arms. I'm like, they're probably bigger than yours. They're just not realizing because they aren't seeing me that I'm 220 pounds. I'm not exactly a small guy. So I need to bring those proportions up, right? Because on a guy who's 40 pounds lighter than me, if a guy's walking around at 180, my arms would probably look massive. So I need to work all those, and I need to work all the angles, all of the angles of the bicep, the tricep, the delt, build everything up. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys and gals next time.